In recent months, a series of targeted attacks on Ukraine's energy infrastructure have created a severe operational crisis. Particularly within the capital city of Kyiv, this situation has led to significant disruptions in the electrical grid, precipitating a systemic failure that extends far beyond simple power outages. We will now examine the cascading effects of this energy instability on the urban systems of Kyiv, analyzing the interconnected dependencies between power, heating, water, and essential civil services. The challenges facing Kyiv are rooted in the fragility of its centralized power system, which has been subjected to repeated and substantial damage. This has resulted in a state of chronic energy deficit, where supply cannot consistently meet demand. The consequence is a regime of prolonged and often unpredictable power outages, which have been reported to last for up to 20 hours a day in certain periods. The system's instability means that even minor fluctuations in load or further damage can trigger indefinite emergency power cuts. For instance, recent attacks have reportedly left nearly 1 million residents in the Kyiv region without electricity at a given time. This is not merely an inconvenience, but a fundamental breakdown of the core infrastructure upon which a modern metropolis depends, forcing a systemic adaptation under conditions of extreme duress. One of the most critical secondary effects of the electrical grid failure is the widespread disruption of Kyiv's central heating system. This system is fundamentally dependent on electricity to power the pumping stations that circulate hot water through the city's vast network of residential and commercial buildings. When the power fails, these pumps cease to function. Consequently, the flow of hot water stops, and buildings rapidly lose heat. This has led to indoor temperatures plummeting to dangerously low levels, with documented cases of temperatures inside apartments falling to as low as 6.9 degrees Celsius, even as outdoor temperatures drop to -19 or -20 degrees Celsius. The scale of this systemic failure is significant. At certain points, the mayor of Kyiv reported that thousands of buildings, including up to 6,000 residential structures and 400 high-rise buildings, were disconnected from the heating network. This occurred during periods when daytime temperatures were already as low as -13 degrees Celsius, illustrating the direct and severe impact of electrical infrastructure failure on the basic habitability of urban dwellings during harsh winter conditions. The breakdown of the electrical grid has also directly compromised Kyiv's municipal water supply system. Similar to the heating network, the water system relies on electric pumps to maintain pressure and distribute water to residents and businesses. The frequent and prolonged power outages have resulted in significant interruptions to this service, leaving many residents without access to running water for extended periods. This has created profound challenges for basic sanitation and hygiene, including the inability to flush toilets or perform routine washing. The scarcity of hot water for bathing and other domestic needs has further compounded the difficulties of daily life. The interruption of this fundamental utility demonstrates the cascading nature of infrastructure failure, where the collapse of one system, the electrical grid, triggers a series of dependent system failures, each with its own set of severe consequences for the urban population. This interconnectedness highlights the vulnerability of modern urban systems to a single point of failure when that point is as foundational as the supply of electricity. The energy crisis has had a severe and far-reaching impact on the commercial and educational sectors within Kyiv. Many businesses, from large supermarkets to small cafes and restaurants, have been forced to close or significantly curtail their operating hours. The inability to power refrigeration, lighting, payment systems, and other essential equipment has made continued operation untenable for a large segment of the city's economy. This has not only disrupted the supply of goods and services to the population, but also created significant economic strain on business owners and their employees. The educational system has also faced major disruptions. In response to the crisis, schools have had to extend holiday periods or transition to online learning models. However, the effectiveness of remote education has been severely hampered by the same underlying problem: unstable power and intermittent internet connectivity. The inability to reliably access digital learning platforms has created significant barriers to education, illustrating how the infrastructure crisis permeates every facet of civil society and public services. In response to these systemic failures, the residents of Kyiv have been forced to develop a range of adaptive strategies to navigate daily life. A common solution has been the acquisition and use of private generators, though this approach is often constrained by high costs, noise, and the logistical challenges of securing fuel. More basic methods have also become widespread, including the use of flashlights and candles for light, and wearing multiple layers of clothing to conserve body heat indoors. People have also reported using the body heat of pets as a source of warmth. To provide institutional support, authorities and community groups have established support centers, known as points of invincibility, where residents can warm themselves, access electricity to charge personal devices, and receive hot beverages. Daily routines have been fundamentally altered, with changes to cooking habits and food preservation methods, to accommodate the lack of refrigeration and consistent power. These individual and community-level adaptations demonstrate a form of grassroots resilience in the face of large-scale infrastructure collapse. The long-term implications of this energy crisis are a subject of serious analysis among energy experts and officials. Projections indicate that the power shortages could persist for the next 3 to 5 years, suggesting that reliance on decentralized power sources like generators may become a semi-permanent feature of life in the city. The energy infrastructure has been so severely weakened by sustained attacks that the process of repair and restoration is exceedingly difficult and time-consuming. This ongoing vulnerability suggests that Kyiv's population will continue to face a profound energy crisis that deeply affects their safety, health, and daily existence, particularly during the harsh winter months. The situation represents a case study in the systemic consequences of infrastructure degradation in the complex, multifaceted challenges of maintaining urban functionality under extreme duress. To illustrate how these interconnected systems interact during a crisis, consider the following operational scenario. An external shock, such as a targeted attack, damages a key electrical substation in Kyiv. This immediately triggers an automatic load shedding protocol by the national grid operator Ukrainigo to prevent a complete collapse of the regional grid. This results in an immediate, unannounced power outage across several city districts. Within minutes, the electric pumps for the central heating and water supply systems in the affected areas cease to function. In a high-rise residential building, water pressure drops and taps run dry within the hour. The hot water circulating through the building's radiators stops, and the ambient indoor temperature begins to fall, its rate of decline dependent on the building's insulation and the external temperature. Simultaneously, local businesses without backup generators are forced to close. The supermarket's refrigerated and frozen goods begin to warm, risking spoilage and financial loss. Mobile communication towers in the area may switch to battery backup, but their operational time is limited. As the outage extends for several hours, residents turn to alternative solutions. Those with power banks use them to keep their phones charged, to monitor news updates and communicate. As evening approaches and temperatures drop further, families gather in a single room, wearing heavy clothing to conserve warmth. Some may travel to a designated community heating point to charge devices and get warm. This scenario demonstrates the immediate and cascading operational consequences of a single point of failure in the energy system, highlighting the institutional responses and individual adaptations that define the day-to-day reality of the crisis. If you value calm, systems-level analysis of global finance and geopolitics, please like, comment, and subscribe.